It's good to be back on Daily Delivery. Had some time off there over the holidays, but Patrick Reusse is with me here on this fine Tuesday. Patrick, how you doing?
I'm doing fair. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Welcome to 2024.
Yes.
Um,
Now we got to, I still write out checks. I'm one of the last guy in the world. So I'll be putting 2023 on it till about the middle of March. And then,
yes.
then half the time they send them back to you. But that's the big adjustment. But 2024, hey, when you're my age, you made it. That's what counts. That's what counts. You
You
made it.
did
You
it.
made it. Another year, baby.
Another.
Another year to roll. So, anyway, welcome everybody to
Yeah.
2024, and it's going to be a tense year, isn't it?
It's
With
yes.
the with what's coming up in November, it's going to be a very tense year for everybody. A lot of raw nerves going on. So let's try to get along with each other here,
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen. It's not going to be easy. So
Let's try to enjoy it as best we can. Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, it's a big year for the Vikings too, Patrick. I think we need to
oh
start
yeah,
with them. We'll get into some college football playoff stuff, maybe some Timberwolves talk, a little Gopher volleyball news too here in a little bit. But gotta start with the Vikings, man. Patrick, 33-10 loss to the Packers, and the score was every bit indicative of how that game went. It was lopsided. It was bad from the beginning. Really, they couldn't make a stop. The Jaren Hall was bad at quarterback. Here's two things I've been thinking about. One, I feel like Kevin O'Connell was put into a tough spot, right? With when Cousins got hurt, they didn't
oh
have
sure.
a great backup plan. They didn't have, and immediately right away, their backup Mullins is hurt, so you don't really know what you're going to do in the first place. So you start Hall, you kind of start this whole carousel. But I just still get the feeling that he did not manage this quarterback situation very well. He's been going back and forth to different guys. Dobbs was really good until he hit a certain point where I think O'Connell maybe asked him to do maybe a little bit too much or play out of his element, and now they're just kind of going week to week where they don't even know what they're doing. I feel like these last 4 or 5 weeks have exposed O'Connell in a way that has to make
That's
the Vikings uncomfortable, both in terms of how he managed the situation and how his offense doesn't really seem to fit anybody right now except for Cousins so far.
Yes, and by the way, 2-6 at home.
Yes,
Congratulations, boys! A very specklesque
yes,
2-6 at home. That's incredible. We spent a lot of money, virtually all public money, that ended up building that place, over $1 billion, and this is what we get: two and
two
six
and
at home.
six,
Let's
two
go
and
back to the
six.
tough old, loud, rowdy Metrodome. That's yeah, it was awful. But yeah, I think they had to watch Hall in practice. They had what okay, after we've seen him, what could have they possibly seen that thought he gave them a chance on Sunday? I know they were mad at Mullins because he just threw the ball all over like a drunken sailor the
Right.
previous week. But go back to Dobbs, give him
Yes.
maybe a couple weeks off. This guy had no chance. I saw some videos somebody sent out of like their first three passing plays. He had wide open receivers and
Yes.
ate the ball every time he wouldn't
Yep.
throw the ball. That guy's 25 years old. He's a year older than Justin Fields. He's 7 months older than Jordan Love. It's not
Yes.
like he's some, 21-year-old kid. And that's why you got him on the fifth round, too. Everybody was afraid of his age. But I mean, the thing about it was, okay, that once down in Atlanta, he had, was it Atlanta he made his start?
Yes. It was Atlanta. Yep. It was Atlanta.
I mean, he looked okay, a couple
Yeah.
of drive, but
Right.
but the public's gotta, it's hard for the 80. If you would have taken a survey of the public, and or if you followed Twitter or anything else all week, it was play Hall. They got to play
Yes.
Hall. Then they announced they played Hall. Well, guess what? We were all wrong.
Yes.
Everybody that said wanted Hall. And the thing about it is, it took two series for you to say this guy's terrified, and he's not some young, guy who's never played football. He's went to BYU. He went on the mission. He's 25 years old. he was fantastically rotten, and and then and the defense has gone completely in the tank too. The Packers just
Yes.
if the Packers hadn't screwed up a couple of things, they would have gotten 40 some.
Mm-hmm.
And the Vikings' only touchdown drive was because they had an idiot punt returner,
Yes.
a 7-yard touchdown drive. That was
Yes.
it.
That was it.
So it was one of the great rear end kickings. I looked up the Les Steckel season,
Mm-hmm.
'84.
Mm-hmm.
3-13 they were that year, and he got him fired. But their last game, when they went 2-6 at home, was a 38-14 loss
Yes.
to the Packers, and it was no more lopsided than this one. This was
No.
just a beating. And yeah, I mean, a year ago we thought we had the young phenom of all time as coaching. Well, there were no crises last year. He never
No.
really had to take himself through anything because they kept pulling out these victories out of
Right.
nowhere. And, they had the mediocre defense, but, we thought, boy, we got one of the prizes of the annual crop of coaches, but, he's, you got to feel sorry for him. He lost his quarterback, but, he did get a couple of miracle victories out of Dobbs when he first came
Yes.
back in. So I don't know. He's there's a couple of things two decisions. He's certainly not as in control of things on the sideline as we thought he was. I still like B. I like the fact that he can get this gentlemanly father of 4 now or something like this. He's nice gentleman. He can get as profane as anybody. He can turn into Jerry Burns on the sideline. So I like that about him. But he has not had a good year either. And the defense now that the defense can't save him anymore, he's not. He's a play caller. I don't know, Mike. He complicates everything.
Yes.
The 1 yard play. It does not have to be. Let's do this, Saya. Let's fool him here. You shouldn't have to fool him on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. And I don't know. He's what else really deteriorated as the year progressed, and some of that was injuries too. Was the offensive line looked like it was pretty good, and now Sunday they were terrible. So
yeah, Darisaw got beat on that strip sack towards the end of the first half. That really,
yes.
I mean, the game was. You could see where the game was going, but that was really the play where then Green Bay takes a 3-score lead at halftime, and it's kind of over at that point. But yeah, you're right. The line has gotten worse as the years gone on, or at least it's gotten shakier. They figured stuff out against them.
And the Packers actually until the Vikings gave him that touchdown on the strip sack, they were not as they were not going to be as ahead as far at halftime as they deserved to be.
Right.
They had they had messed up a thing, but boy, it is amazing though that how long a football season could be. Look at the Bears and the Packers. They're going to be fighting for when halfway through the year, they're going to be fighting for the first draft choice. These two teams that both stink, and they ended up right now. They're the Vikings are easily the worst team in the division, don't you think? By far,
they're playing that way. Yeah, I mean, they're tied with the Bears. They're 7-9. They have the same record as the Bears, and Bears are opposite trajectory, right? They started out terrible, and they've been a lot better lately. They just won again, and they're going to have the number one. And they've got the number 1 overall pick.
They're going to Green Bay Sunday, though.
Correct.
They
chance
could
to spoil their season, chance to ruin Green Bay's season.
Preseason and keep the Vikings alive for a playoff run.
That's right.
That would be something, wouldn't it?
It would. So on the O'Connell point, I think you made some good points on him because I do think it's been a bad year for him. I think he's still a good coach. I think I've written that I like him a lot more every day except for Sunday. I think he does. He's built things pretty well. He's got it seems like however you define culture, which is an overused term, but however you define kind of what goes on in the locker room and how hard a team will play for you and how much they buy into what you're doing. I think he's got that going for him. But you have the game day decision stuff and just the quarterback situation this year, it bothers me because they had something going with Dobbs, and I feel like he pivoted at some point because he was like, we can't keep winning this way. We've got to win a different way. And that was the point that the season turned. They stopped scoring. And you realized right now, I was looking at this after the game, even after giving up 33 to Green Bay, within the division, they are the lowest scoring team and have given up the fewest points in
Wow.
the NFC
I
North.
did not realize that. Did not realize
So
that.
you want to say where the strength of this team was? It was defense this year. It wasn't the offense. That's for sure. They've only scored like I think 320 points, something like that. It has not been an offensive show. They scored almost like I think they scored like 420 something last year because it was almost exactly the same as the last year of Zimmer. By the way, which is another interesting point. We kind of thought about last year as the offensive genius coming in, and they scored the exact same as they did the year before that. But yeah, really it was Flores' defense for a lot of the year propping him up, and then that's been figured out a few weeks in a row now. And the personnel on defense has been the secondary and not having enough pass rush. I mean, with both Wanham and Davenport out now, they're pretty thin there talent wise. But it's the quarterback handling and just you're right, the overcomplication. And that's kind of baked into what they want to do to a certain degree. They want to confuse the other team.
Yes, that's it.
They want to play simple, they say, but make it look complicated to the other team. And I think they've made things
Look,
complicated for themselves sometimes.
yeah, I think that's a good comment. And here's the other deal. I know Kirk comes out with his shirt on. Oh, Kirk's such a special human being and shirt off and what a moron. But anyway, I don't think you want to bring him back because if you bring him back, what are you going to accomplish?
I agree.
You're gonna win 9, 10 games and get beat in the first round of the
Yes.
playoffs, right? He's not taking you to the promised land with this squad,
No,
and and you got to pay him $40 million, and
correct.
then you got to sign Jefferson, and you got to sign Hunter, and you're in salary cap hell worse than you've ever been. I think you got to try to go get one of the 4 or so quarterbacks there are, and start building yourself a quarterback and building yourself a team because this isn't like you're gonna that oh boy Kirk's back, here we go, we're gonna be 13-4 again by some miracle. That's not happening. The
No,
reality is last year was not reality. Winning all
no,
those games 11-0 and one score games is
no,
not reality,
no.
and this roster is not, without Jefferson or without Hunter, what kind of a roster you got? And, you got to start over. You got to, I'll figure out a way to get the left-hander from Washington. I'll take that guy, man, alive.
Yes.
Jefferson and catch 1,500 yards worth of passes, no problem with that guy. So, or whatever. But it's time to start over at quarterback, and it's not by paying Kirk's 35, going to be 35.
He'll be 36. He's 35 already. He'll be 36 in August.
36. Where's he going to lead? This isn't like bringing back Aaron Rodgers when he's
No.
in his mid-30s. This is bringing back a good quarterback, but not a superstar quarterback. So
Yes.
I think you just gotta. It's time. The competitive. What do we call it? The competitive rebuild.
Competitive rebuild.
Got to be the competitive rebuild. Has got to be. Start with the rebuilding with a new quarterback. That's the guy you're going to rely on. And it sure is. It's not going to be some 5th-round choice for BYU.
No.
That's for sure. So
I know.
and bring in another. Bring in another Denny Green, 34-year-old veteran,
Right.
Warren Moon. Don't do that. You gotta get your quarterback of the future here. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, and the problem too with this, with how bad the backups have played, how many, how they've rotated between these 3 guys now is that I feel like it sets up a false choice, right? It's like, well, hey, you see what happens when they don't have Cousins now. You got to go back to Cousins. It's like, well, you don't actually. It's not binary. You don't have to go back to Kirk Cousins just because these guys aren't all that great. Because the choice, if you don't have Kirk Cousins, it's not just like you only have these other guys in a planned season. You have somebody else. You have the quarterback you drafted. You can still pivot. I'm not saying they will. I'm not even necessarily saying that that would make them better in 2024. But you're right. At some point, you've got to decide, okay, are we playing for the number 7 seed, or are we trying to win a Super Bowl? And I think that's the difference between going back to Cousins next year or going and trying to get somebody for the future. Because Cousins was playing pretty well when this all got shut down, but he had his struggles at the beginning of the season. He still has some empty calories in him when he plays, even though he's gotten better, I think, at making those kind of big time throws. Like they had him essentially in his prime with a much better defense than what they have right now, and they won one playoff game. Like this is not. I still don't think that. I think it's just people are setting it up to be. You got to go back to him now, and that bothers me.
Well, what was their record when he got hurt? 4-4, 4-4,
4-4.
right?
Yep,
He got
4-4.
hurt 4-4.
Yep.
So I mean, okay, we don't remember that. We're all of a sudden there's this assumption that. Dobbs, they would have won all these, the Kirk lovers, and there's a few of them were, well, we would have went 7-2 with Kirk. No, you wouldn't have. I mean, Dobbs won you a couple of games you didn't expect. And,
Yeah. Then you won that game 3-0.
yeah. And you won a game 3-0, right? So that was, it's time to get rid of him. You can't. He's too. You think he's gonna come back on a 1-year deal? For goodness sakes,
not a chance. No.
If he's coming back, you're committing yourself to him for 3 more years. He'll be 38 years old. And where are you gonna go? I don't know. We'll find out. I think they're. I don't think they'll bring him back. I really don't think they will. I don't think they're stupid out there. And Kwesi, for all the heat he gets, and they hadn't had a great draft, but they got to make an intentional decision,
right?
And say, we got to get a quarterback. And if you give up a player and a good player and 3 draft choices to get a guy, your 3 of your top 5 draft choices to get Michael Penix or somebody, I'd do that. I'd make my move here. You got to get the cheap quarterback. Plus, who's floating around? There's next year's Baker Mayfield is out there.
Right.
Some guy that came in. Some guy that came in and played pretty good is out there. Just get one of those guys and then draft your quarterback and say goodbye, Kirk. But you sure look cute with your shirt off. But and you and your son. But by everybody saying, it's the greatest horn blowing ever. Yeah, well, and it's quite a result it got too. Wasn't
it really fired him up.
Really fired him up, man. So God, what a miserable performance. It was one of the worst. And you know what? O'Connell on the sidelines, I think he expected it. I don't think he was that shocked that Hall was terrible.
No.
So
I want to. In a game where things were still on the line. I mean, they win that game, and then they're in pretty good shape going in. It was interesting to go to Hall in that moment, and I do wonder if there's an element of, well, here's the guy you drafted. Let's see what we got here. I don't know.
It was a 5th rounder, Mike.
Yes, I know.
5th rounder. It's not like it's a 2nd rounder. He never had any obligation to play this guy.
No,
he's a 5th rounder. The odds of him being The odds of him being your quarterback when you drafted him were 1 out of 25, for goodness sakes. Kellen Mond was a 3rd rounder, and he couldn't play. So, so I mean, it's not like, well, we had to find out if Jaren Hall could play. No, you didn't. He's a 5th rounder.
Not at that time. Yeah. And I mean, dude, it was in retrospect, it looks curious based on how he played. I don't know. And especially with 2 healthy veteran quarterbacks at your disposal. I mean, you can't say that Hall, with the way he played, you can't say that he gave you a better chance to win that game than Mullins or Dobbs would have. So I don't know. Maybe O'Connell just was like, okay, well, let's see it. Let's see what you got. And hey, if we lose, not the worst thing in the world, because it gets us a little bit closer to that quarterback I really want and not the quarterbacks we have. I don't know. I think O'Connell probably, if you asked O'Connell, I think he'd probably rather have Kirk back, though, because he likes that.
Oh, sure.
He likes
they'd like to have Kirk back, but for 3 years? You want Kirk back for 3 years?
No. And, well, the problem with the problem with Kirk next year is he's going to cost you almost 30 million on your cap, no matter what, even if you get rid of him. But
Yeah.
you gotta cut that off at some point. You do.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's not your guy for the next 3 years. It would
How
just be
about
a
how about Russ Wilson? You want to bring him in for
no.
85 million? How
Oh,
about that for an 80?
what a
How
mess
about,
that
how
is.
about Peyton saying, "Yeah, let's get rid of him. It only cost us 85 million
I
on the
know.
cap next year." It's unbelievable.
And his stats look pretty good this year. His stats look
Yeah,
fine.
but I don't know. But he doesn't like him, and
No.
it's they just so Denver, keep buying your season tickets, baby. But we're going to be terrible for about 2 years here. But we're going to end up with a quarterback. So then let's I mean, the ship should sail here, but who knows what they're going to try to do?
But you like the Washington quarterback, it
Oh,
sounds like.
I
Let's
love the guy.
transition into the football playoff because those are two good
Remember,
games. Those are two good games.
remember when Penix was just kind of a runner at Indiana? I
Indiana,
had
yeah.
no idea he had that kind of arm, and then he had a couple, three injuries. So he's been at it for a while. He's like 23 or something, but he really throws a nice ball, man. That deep ball he throws is terrific. I got to think if Justin Jefferson was watching that game, he's saying, "Get that guy." He's like, when I beat somebody by 25 yards,
Right.
he's going to throw it to me. So, I mean, that's the deal here. You got to if you're going to sign. You're going to sign Jefferson. You got to get him a quarterback, and
Yes.
you got to get the quarterback of the future, who's actually the quarterback of the future. And I haven't seen the kid from Oregon. I don't think I saw them play all year, but everybody loves him too. Bo Nix.
Oh, next, yeah, he had a good game.
But
He had a good game, like
and
5 touchdowns.
Williams is going to, Williams is, you think he's going to get picked by the Bears?
I do, yeah.
Then they'll trade Fields. Somebody's going to get Fields for a second round draft choice or something. So
Yeah.
not us, but somebody.
Right.
But Fields has played okay. So, but yeah, I like that kid a lot. I thought he was terrific last night. That would have been a bad loss for Washington.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, they keep giving them more plays down by the goal line.
I know
and it was almost a miracle win for Texas. Washington's got, comes out of the Pac-12. They don't play any defense. They just try to outscore you. I think Michigan's actually going to win.
Yeah.
But Michigan, that was a heck of a game, that one, because Michigan was dead in the water
They were on the
until
ropes, yeah.
middle of the fourth quarter, and then boom, boom. And their defense is fabulous, though. Even against Alabama, they made. But that Alabama, is that what you got on 4th and 3 of the season?
Yeah, that was
right. You run right up in the gut,
Right.
the crowded gut, because that. I don't know. You got to roll them out and let them run into the end zone or something. That kid, right?
I thought for sure they were going to run wide, because they were on the far right hash mark. I was like, well, they're gonna send him sprinting out to the left, give him some choices, and instead it was a low snap, and he just took off up the middle, and then he ran right into his own guy and
stuffed him like. I mean, even if he hadn't, there was about 5 Michigan guys there to tackle him, and they got a fantastic defense, and I didn't like their quarterback that well. Michigan
McCarthy.
He's
okay.
made a couple of throws at the end, but he's not. I wouldn't want it. Well, I suppose I'd take him as your quarterback of the future, but I think he's clearly behind at least Penix and Caleb Williams for sure.
Probably Drake May too, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Big, strong guy with a great arm. So yeah. I think Penix, he might be drafted 12, 13, something like that. And now I saw one where he had him projected 9th, but I think he's the one guy you can maybe trade up to and get. So
yeah, might be in the range, especially if you keep losing. That's the thing, Patrick. Is as frustrating as this has been for a lot of fans. The ones who love to look into the future say, well, it's not that bad. They keep losing because the draft spot's going to be a lot better than it was.
Yeah, they could be 10 or 11 if they lose Sunday, right? Couldn't they 10 or 11, 10, 11, 12, something like that to draft, right?
Yeah, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, because it's kind of they're kind of tied in that kind of.
Well, maybe you can even get Penix there. Maybe you don't have to draft, So
well, it kind of depends. If he shreds Michigan, his draft stock might go up. It's all we see. you get all these like mock drafts in, September and October, 6 months ahead of the fact, and then we actually see how they play. We actually see where the teams wind up. At one point, it looked like the Vikings might be competing for the number one pick, when they started off
Mm-hmm.
0-3, and then, they got to 6-4, and you were like, oh, they're probably going to make the playoffs this year. So, a little bit of patience isn't a bad thing as we kind of see how these things play out. But yeah, it seems like it's a quarterback heavy draft. Last year, there were some good ones at the top, right? But they were never going to get any of those guys, especially when Richardson went 4. This year, it feels like there's a couple of those guys that are maybe more in that 10 to 20 range that they could maybe go get this year.
Yep, that's I feel that. Come on, Kirk, go. It'll be interesting how quickly he finds a job too if he doesn't stay here. And I don't think he'll. The more I think about it, I don't think they're gonna. I think they're fairly smart out there, and they got 55 guys looking at these people too and analyzing them, and I think as we've said now 5 times today, you sign Kirk, then what?
Yeah.
You going to the Super Bowl? You going to the conference finals? No, you aren't. Not with not if you're still in salary cap hell. You're not. So you got to get your quarterback, and you got to pay off you operate one more year and salary cap hell, and then you could bring some talent in here and make a run a couple of years. So,
well, anyway. And the other thing about this crew, let's move on to the Wolves after that. But the other thing about this crew is that as much as they seem like they like Cousins, they will not let emotion get in the way of this decision. No. They do not seem like they will make an emotion-based decision. They will make a business and football decision beyond that. And even if they think Kirk would have a good season next year, I think they have to realize at some point that it is not possible to pay all these guys what they're going to pay them and still be good be good in other areas. At some point you gotta find that cheat code and have that young quarterback who's gonna be cost controlled for 3-4 years and give you that real window.
And the people I feel sorry for is these guys. They spend all their entertainment money. They stand there and act like idiots and go skull, 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 and then the game starts. You got to be embarrassed that this is how you've spent all your entertainment money. And I stood up and I cheered and thought I dressed up with horns on my head, and I went skull, skull, skull. And look what I get for this: 2-6.
2-6
at home. I'm canceling my tickets. I'm done giving Ziggy my money. I'm going to watch on TV and figure out and go to Acapulco for vacation instead of blow all my money watching these clowns go 2-6 at home. That would be my reaction if I was a Viking customer after that pathetic performance this weekend. So,
Grand Casino would like to take a moment and salute the true football fan. The passion, the hope, the anticipation, that incomparable feeling of winning. Grand Casino would also like to take a moment to remind you that you can find all that anticipation, thrill, and winning at Grand Casino. Grand Casino, let your story begin.
So the Wolves are 24-8 now, Patrick. I sense some growing annoyance from Finch with the current state of affairs and just how they're playing lately. You kind of let them have it after that Lakers game, even though they won the game. They lost the Tibbs yesterday.
It was great.
It was great. Yeah.
He and I had the same reaction. I was at that Laker game, and I kept saying, "These guys are playing awful. They were playing awful." And he and I had the same impression that night. So I was proud of him that he came out in his low key manner. But he wasn't happy with him yesterday either. And you know what? A lot of it is the superstar, Ant. He has got to be tough to handle, man, because all of a sudden after the Laker game, I mean, the thing about him, he says whatever's in that empty head of his. But yeah, my deal was to shoot every time I got the ball. That was an unbelievable quote. How do you think the Cat Man took that one? I mean,
I don't think he loved it. Well, and he
I
wouldn't
don't,
come. He wouldn't come out of the game at the end of the first half, and that was the thing that Finch
yeah,
really
they had
hated.
to. Yeah, no, I think it was, because basically yesterday in New York, his whole thing was we have to get a cat involved again, and he had a good game, but I think. They've all handled the having the two big guys and having Ant be the lead guy, but I think he knew that he was going to deal with a tough situation here if they didn't try to get Edwards under some kind of control and make him play a little bit of team basketball because he's drifting towards. It's my responsibility to shoot every time down the court.
Yes.
He's drifting towards that, and he is a mercurial personality, that's for sure. And he can, the public might say, well, it's Ant's team, blah, blah, blah. It's, what they were succeeding at for a long, still about 2 weeks ago was being everybody's team, right?
Yes.
They were, and then Jaden McDaniels, he's still about 12 years old. So, you got him too. So you got 70-something million invested in him, right?
Yeah. Well, McDaniels. Yeah, he's between those two guys.
More than that.
McDaniels contract was 5 years, 135
Oh,
million.
that's right. That's right. I was thinking of Nas. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You got
Nas
about Nas is a bargain, but
Nas gives you an effort, and Nas is going out there,
everybody
and
loves
Nas is
Nas.
not Nas is all about me. But Ants can he can I mean, I'm sure everybody's such a big quirky personality, but they were drifting away from playing as a team, that's for sure. And I think he's trying to get them under control, but I don't know. The last couple of weeks they have not been as impressive. They've still been winning. They're like what 7 out of the last 11 or something.
Yeah.
But
And they're playing this tough stretch of games, so it's like they're playing better opponents. So some of these things are naturally going to get exposed. But yeah, it doesn't make sense that like the thing that was working this year was what you said, that they were playing good team basketball, that they were sharing the ball, that everybody was getting a chance, and Ant was getting his points still. But yeah, then he had 44 the other night, but they
yeah,
didn't, it didn't look quite right. Then there was the Lakers game, and then this one against New York where he's just kind of like, I think he played well, but if he's not sharing the ball the way he should, and I shudder to think what this team would look like, basketball wise and personality wise, if they ever had to play a sustained stretch, which, in the future they will without Conley, because that's the guy
yeah,
that keeps them all in line at a certain point and
yeah.
keeps.
And yesterday they
He
had
was
this.
bad.
Yesterday it was him like I can't do anything with these guys today. So it was
Yeah.
kind of he did not have one of his games, and and they put McLaughlin in, and he actually played well for a while. But I think they gotta. You know who I see too much of? Slow mo. I've
Yeah.
seen enough of slow mo.
He was
Slow
good.
mo.
He was good last year. This has not been a good slow-mo year. He doesn't quite
He
fit
doesn't
this
make
team.
any shots, and if they didn't give him the double Euro step, he'd never score because there's the Euro step and there's the slow mo step, which is about 4 steps before he shoots the ball. They got he played great last year. I mean, he was always when he came in,
Yep.
but right now, half the time he's your backup point guard when
Yes.
when
Conley's off the
not
floor.
playing, and I don't think that's working. He's nobody's paying much attention to the fact that he's going to have to play better or stop playing as much as they're playing him because he has not been good, and McDaniels hasn't. I mean, McDaniels will guard you, but then he'll get 3 fouls and pout, and he has. I don't think he's been that good either. I mean, he's been hurt too a couple of times.
He's been okay.
Yeah, but nothing special. But that might be the worst technique. You got Tony Brothers out there, right? The referee who loves to be the man in charge, and he's going to give you a technical. So you got the game won, and you decide to get teed up with.
Right.
And by the way, I think LeBron got hosed. I think that was a 3.
It was close.
It was close. It was close, I guess. But God, it was amazing. He pretty much dragged the referee over and showed him the replay, but he no technical, So anybody else acted like LeBron did at the end of the game when they didn't give him three, where he got teed up for sure, especially with that crew out there. But yeah, they were, the crowd seemed to be extremely entertained by that Lake. They were fired up for that Laker game. There's no doubt. I wasn't, but it was weird. It was weird, that game, because they really were playing poorly there for quite some time. But they're 24-8. They're fine. But I think Finch knows he's got some. He's got some. He doesn't have dissension, but he doesn't have the old kumbaya that he had. So I think he's got to get him under control. And Edwards is a challenge. Edwards is a challenge for the coach, because we found out he's a screwball already. So it's they're not going to end up with the best record in the West.
I don't think so.
Oklahoma City might. They're great.
But, they're really good.
But
and Denver's going to be good. Denver's going to be there at the end too.
Yeah. They should end up with still. I think
they're
going to be
four.
Right around 4 and 5. So, but they got to hang in there and get a home series, and it'll be interesting to hear. But you said keeping Connolly healthy all year is going to be a chore. That guy's 36 years old.
36, I think. Yeah, and he's got some injury history.
They didn't have him, it'd be the same train wreck it always has. So you had D'Lo running. How about the Lakers? They're playing 5 big guys now rather than start D'Lo.
I know it.
LeBron is basically their point guard. So
they got all the former Wolves last year and got kind of functional, and they decided they got to keep them all, and that was probably not the way to build that roster. But here's the thing: we're quibbling about a team that's 24-8, which is kind of funny, because the Wolves are in any other point in their history. I mean, these are small problems, right? These are good problems to have versus what we've dealt with this team in a lot of the past.
I was very worried about my guy Tibbs yesterday. I thought after they made the big trade, I thought they might, if he'd blown that game, he might have gotten fired. Because I think he's on probation out there anyway, and they had that. I mean, they had him buried, and all of a sudden it's a 4-point game, and they keep having that problem the next two. They keep frittering away big leads at home, which the Garden crowd does not like. So
let's quickly talk Gopher volleyball. Taylor Landfair, Patrick, made her decision. Wow. She's going to Nebraska. The Gophers lost some high quality transfers these last couple of years. Probably none more than her, right?
Yeah, I think Carter Booth's a better weapon than her, but her going to Wisconsin too, with more eligibility left. But with the endless eligibility in college sports, she's got 2 years left. She's already been here 4 years, and she's got 2 years left. Right, Landford? Did I read that?
She does.
Today?
Yeah, she's got 2 years left, because I think she had 1 year where she was hurt, and then there's the COVID year. So
all year long. No, I'm not saying I'm not Jeff Day. I'm not a tremendous student of Gopher volleyball, but I watched quite a bit of it, and she was bad the first half of for a Big Ten player of the year. She was not engaged at all. Then she played a little better, but she did not play nearly to the quality of that she had in the past. Now I don't know if Shaftmaster being hurt half the year, and she played, but she was not. She was hurt, but. She was pretty frontal in her release, saying that this did not. It was no longer the Gophers when they made the coaching change. Was no longer a good fit for me. So that's not good. Keegan Cook's got his work cut out for him. That's for sure, because it's the Gophers were number 1 recruits in the country were considering the Gophers, and they aren't anymore. I mean, Nebraska. Last year, that Showboy, the defensive player, was the number 1 recruit in the country, going to come to the Gophers, and she flipped to Nebraska too. So, this is, I'm sure he's feeling bad about losing her, but the way she played this year and the enthusiasm with which he played this year, I think he's got to start over anyway and get somebody else in here, because they've I was only over there a couple of times, but I saw him get destroyed by Purdue and said,
Yeah.
this is not a Gopher volley. This is not a great team, and they made it to the second round is all. But he's got his work cut out for him, and that's a bad loss to say that. I mean, it's a bad loss. The way it looks might be even worse than the fact that you're going to have to try to replace her, right? With the quote she gave you and everything, all
I agree.
of a sudden she's put him in big trouble with the Gopher volleyball fans, I think, with that quote. And the other thing is, what's McCutcheon doing? Has anybody heard from him?
He's
What is
special assistant. I don't know.
special assistant in charge of culture, basically? Well, we got a football coach who's in charge of culture. So what? He's not. Yeah, I don't know what we're doing with him, but he was obviously involved in hiring Keegan Cook, and I've met him a couple of times. He seems like a good guy, and he's got the great background. But it's just another. Yeah, the way it hasn't been a great year for Gopher athletics, that's for sure. So far.
Pretty much ever since they lost the NCAA title game in men's hockey, it's kind of been downhill from there. It's been downhill from there. That not a good basketball. They might be better this year. I don't know. They play Thursday. Men play Thursday against Michigan. We'll see if they're better this year. But I don't know.
I think they. I was exchanging texts, as they say, with somebody deeply involved. And I said, yeah, I think you're going to be a little better. You might be able to win 7. And he says, I hope we win more than 7. Really? I know the Big Ten isn't great, but, I think this, they're not, I think they're going to win enough games to save Ben Johnson's job, but I don't think much else. Their strength of schedule, counting the 2 Big Ten games they've already played, is 156th. Nobody else in the league is out of the top 100s, and their strength of non-conference schedule is like 240. So they basically got to win 12 or make a run in the tournament to make their strength of schedule is so rotten. It looks good, but it's so rotten that they're not going to be a bubble team that makes it to the tournament, because you can't let a team get away with scheduling like that and then put them in the tournament if they're a marginal team. So they're going to have to. I mean, they're not going to win 12. Let's face it, but they might win 7.
They might be an NIT team maybe this year, which is better than last year, and they just look better. The product is better, but I don't have high hopes, but I think they're at least they were just bad to watch last year.
Yep, go ahead. Is anybody going to show up and watch them, though? That's the thing.
No, I don't think
starts. Is anybody going to show them up and watch them? I don't know. That's what's if he gets fired, that's going to be the reason. But
because they can't.
If he gets fired because of attendance, there's one guy in the world you can hire to fill the place. Musselman's kid. That's the only guy.
I know. Good luck with that, because he keeps winning.
Yeah, he keeps winning and getting he's making $5.5 million or something down there now. So you're not going to invest like that. So I don't know. The other thing is the whole NIL and Dinkytown thing.
Dinkytown athletes.
No money. It's all going to football.
Yeah.
Basketball is giving a little money to Payne, a little money to Joseph, a little money to everybody, but they're not. They're not competitive in the NIL market at all, basketball-wise. So that's another obstacle he has. You got to get somebody in there who can get them to, get some people to invest in the program. And right now, nobody is. Let's face it, that whole old ticket buyer crowd that started coming when Bill Musselman was the coach 50 years ago. They got a little old. We've got a little old here to still be walking up those steps at age 76 or something, So it's a hard place to go watch sports. And I came up with a new nickname for the place the other day.
What's
the
that?
Big Ugly. The Big Ugly. I'm going to start calling it the Big Ugly. I was a barn guy more as much as anybody,
I
but
was too.
it's a dump. It's a dump. It's over.
Well, we've been debating this for 20 or 30 years too. Like, hey, is the barn getting a little old? And it's not any younger. It's not any younger now than it
No,
was back then. They haven't had to,
plus
they've
it's
done a
such
few
hard
things to
work.
it, but
It's such hard work to get
yes,
there.
it is.
Parking over there, and now they're, if you try to go early and park in that lot over on Washington
Yes.
Avenue, it's reserved until 5:30 or something. I
Right,
mean,
because of the employees, yeah.
everything is they make it so damn hard to get in there. And then you get in there and you're playing Alcorn State or
Right.
somebody.
Not St. Thomas. Not St. Thomas.
Not St. Thomas, no.
No.
St.
Well,
Thomas off to a 2-0 start.
there you go.
Summit. They beat the
They're good.
they beat the Kansas City Ruse at home Sunday. So, which had beat Oral Roberts. So anyway,
All right.
yeah.
Well, I got it.
And there was one other thing I was going to mention, and I wish I could remember what it was. But our Wild lost 2 in a row. Is the honeymoon over?
Well, they lost their goalie and their best player for a little while,
Yeah.
so that's probably bigger than anything.
They had to put the goalie on the injured list, and they're not going to tell us what's wrong with Kaprizov until today, right? Is that right? That they weren't going to make it. What do we know about him?
I don't know, but neither the goalie sounds like it's like upper body for at least a week, and then Kaprizov they're saying maybe that long too. You can't be without both those guys for that long.
No. Well, yeah, it was fun while it lasted, but anyway, that's they're still filling the place up every night, so that's I guess what counts.
They are indeed. Well, we'll have more to talk about next week. We'll be on a regular Monday schedule. We'll see if the Wolves kind of find their mojo. We'll find if the Wild can get back in. We'll see if the Vikings can make a miracle run. All those things. Patrick, Happy New Year. Appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you later.
All right, Mike. Thank you, sir.